Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. A number of you have reached out to ask me to review a video by the guy with the beard, guns, and gear. He had an interaction with the police that he discusses, and lots of people had questions. Now, I'm going to link his channel in the description below. I really encourage you to go check it out because he's got a small channel. He could really use your subscription, and he's doing us a solid by letting us review this and telling us his story. So let's have a look here. All right, so here he is.
Hey guys, what is going on? It's the guy with beard, guns, and gear. I'm kind of a little bit in shock still, and I wanted to talk about it while it was still fresh in my mind. I can still remember the details.
Now, as a criminal defense lawyer, I encourage people when they have some sort of interaction that might be an issue, take notes. A video like this is actually decent notes, but it can also be helpful to just write things down while it's fresh in your memory, because that may be helpful if there does turn out to be a court process, which I don't think is the issue here, but let's keep watching.
Last night, I probably went through the nightmare scenario for every single firearms owner. You guys, if this has happened to you, you can certainly relate. If it hasn't happened to you yet, in Canada, this is just kind of to put out that it doesn't take much. So I'll tell you a little bit what happened. All right, so my son is at school and he's talking to his friends and they're talking about, hunting and stuff like that. We're country people, okay, but we live in the city right now. So we do things like fishing and hunting and snowmobiling and, things that city folk just don't do. So it's complete.
And I'm just going to say, there's lots of city folk who do these things. Like, I live in the city, I go fishing. I mean, I'm not very good at it, and I go hunting. I'm not very good at it, but I'd certainly have no issue with this. But there's also lots of people in the cities who maybe don't understand these activities and get upset.
Completely foreign to them. And I've had people already make comments as they see me go in and out of the house with bags containing firearms or whatever, going to the range, and they're like, what is this guy up to?
Now, I'm always a little cautious. Whenever I'm going to and from the range, I try to sort of attract as little attention as possible. These are different approaches, but you don't necessarily know what your neighbor's views are going to be. You may end up with a neighbor who decides that they want to crack down on your ownership of firearms because of their politics. You can also get situations where a neighbor might decide that they want to break in and take your stuff. We've had people in my neighborhood who turned out later to be, addicts or dealing drugs. In fact, very close to me, not that long ago, there was a full-scale police raid with like a vehicle-mounted battering ram and all of that fun stuff. So I'm always a little cautious.
So anyway, I've always answered their questions. I mean, that's the best thing you can do, right? Is to get rid of that kind of ignorant thought of, oh my God, he's got a firearm, he's got to be dangerous, what is he up to?
And, as much as I'm cautious, I'll commend the guy for doing that and for sort of doing that outreach. Taking somebody to the range, for instance, who's never been before can be tremendously helpful in terms of them seeing what responsible firearm ownership looks like.
So anyway, he mentioned the fact that he went hunting or whatever, like last year, or, that he goes hunting with me and the topic of firearms came up. Well, somebody overheard this and passed it to the school administration. School administration felt that they had no other choice but to call in the authorities.
And this is silly, right? The school administration should have called him and been like, hey, what's going on? Because if he doesn't know that his kids got firearms, then that's something the parent should know. But if it's just, the parent is a hunter, this really isn't any business of the school.
So last night, I'm at work. I get a phone call around 5:30 p.m. and my wife says, the police are here. I'm like, what do they want? Say, they want into the house. They want to check on the firearms. I said, what are you talking about?
Now, if the police are at the front door and they're asking to come in, it means that they don't have the authority to come in, because typically they're not going to request unless they can't get what they want just by demanding. Um, so usually the answer to this will be no, but this is a situation where I would say get on the phone right away and call a lawyer right away when you've got something like this going on.
So she questions them, and not just one, not two police officers, but three. Let me just say that for the most part, I'm pro police, pro law enforcement. I know they have a tough job to do, and they have to take every complaint. I do not blame the police for being called in on this action.
The thing is this is how the police end up losing this, right? He's saying I'm pro police. Well, I've seen situations like this where people end up proned out on their front lawn in full view of their neighbors, with a rifle pointed at the back of their head, and those people stop being pro police pretty quickly. I'm He's got 3 officers, okay. I've seen situations where they've sent like a dozen.
But their response, I mean, they can't just investigate whether or not it was credible, what was going on, what were they talking about, was there a threat made or anything like that. They kind of have to go and make sure that somebody is not setting up for another shooting at a school.
The thing is, you can't just assume that that's what's going on. They should actually investigate what's happening. And, if they talk to the school and it's like, oh, all this is somebody talked about hunting, then, I mean, just let it go, right?
I guess is what their main priority is, and I understand that. So my wife says they want to come in and they want to look at the firearms. And so I said to her, and I have nothing to hide.
And this is the point where I just wince, because I have nothing to hide is usually the thing people say before they end up getting arrested. I have nothing to hide. I let them search. Don't do it. You always have something to hide. You have your privacy. You don't want a group of police officers tramping through your house, just having a little, poke around. And once they're inside, they're not there for no reason. They don't want to come back to the station and be like, yeah, we found nothing. They'd much rather come back and say, yeah, we laid charges. We arrested somebody. Don't give them an in. Don't give them the option.
Okay, I'm not saying that I have illegal items or prohibited items and they're hidden or anything like that. I have absolutely nothing to hide. But I have rights and I need to protect those rights. And unless I see a warrant, nobody is coming into my house to look.
Yes, thank you. Um, Thank you so much. I wish more people did that, because you know how many times I've seen somebody gets charged because an officer decides to charge them with like careless storage of ammunition because there's one loose cartridge, and it's not anything that's a danger or something. The officer just says, "Oh, well, I'm going to charge you for that." Um, don't, and it might not even be ammunition. Might be that they find like a dummy round or something like that. Yeah. Um, you've got rights. You've got your privacy. You don't need to let people poke around. Just this whole "I have nothing to hide" is the most dangerous thought that people have.
Look around, to poke around and say, what do you have that for? What do you need that for? Uh, because honestly, I mean, they don't understand the purpose of any firearms, and I'll get to that because some of the questions made it obvious that they don't understand some of the firearms.
Just because a police officer carries a gun doesn't mean that they know anything about them. Often police officers have very little, and that this is, it varies by officer, but I say often because I think more officers than not have no interest in guns other than just that they're required to carry one. Um, I've heard officers testify to things that, and they say this as if it's, they're confident and so forth, that are just frankly wrong on guns. Um, don't assume that the officers know guns. Don't assume that they like guns. Don't assume that they have any knowledge whatsoever.
So they already knew, because I have restricted firearms, I have pistols, I do a little bit of sport shooting, of those firearms.
So what he means is that in Canada, every handgun is a restricted firearm, although you're no longer allowed to transfer them. And restricted firearms have to be registered with the government. So the police, when they're running his name, would be able to check and see which guns he's got registered. Now, that's only going to cover the handguns. There's no long gun registry anymore. So most hunting rifles, most, shotguns, these things would not be registered. But, and the other thing is that the registry doesn't tell the police anything about illegal guns. If you run a registry check on a crack house, it'll say no guns when there might well be guns. But let's continue.
So anyway, I told my wife, I said, well, unless they have a warrant, they're not looking through anything. Well, I mean, we'll answer questions or whatever. If they're starting to insist on it, then I said, we're going to contact a lawyer. And before we go any further, we're going to...
And my criticism here is you don't need to answer questions, and this would have been the time to call a lawyer. People always wait too long to call a lawyer. Lawyer early is the better way to go. And I'm not trying to criticize. I'm just trying to, this is here for the benefit of other people who might be in this situation. So I'm not throwing shade his way or anything like that. It's just, it's good to get advice if you're in a situation like this. He is, at this point, in legal peril. And you want a lawyer anytime that comes up.
Talk to a lawyer. So, police came in, all three of them, including a sergeant, a supervisor. I guess it was that, critical of an issue that they wanted to have a supervisor on site. Talk with my wife a little bit, talk with my son a little bit.
Now, I can tell you, this I wouldn't have put up with. The officers would have stayed on the porch, and it would have been, no. Sorry, I'm not answering your questions. I'm not required to. Out you go.
Then, my wife calls me and says they want to talk to you. And I said, okay, fine. So I'm talking to the sergeant. Well, actually, I was talking to the officer at first, and the officer said, okay, well, what do you have? And I said, well, I have some firearms, yes. And he said, well, where are they? And I said, they're secured.
Good answer. I mean, a better answer is just not to answer any of the questions, but, they're secured. He doesn't need to know where. He doesn't need all of these details.
Okay, well, can we look? And I said, no.
Yes, that is the correct answer. No, you can't. I wouldn't even want them in your house, because once they're in their house, anything that they can see from a place that they are lawfully standing is considered plain view. If they can just, see something. And so if they see something, I don't know what's in those boxes behind him, but an officer might get interested in them. He wouldn't be able to open the boxes, but he could say, well, those look like ammo boxes, and so I deem that to be in, careless storage. You got to be really cautious.
No, you cannot. I said, I can tell you that they're secured. But here's the thing. If they think in Canada, this is the way the law is, if they have reasonable grounds to believe that they can intervene and a crime will be prevented, or that firearm was used in a crime and they're conducting an investigation, they can do so without a warrant. Meaning that if they have credible enough evidence to believe that for whatever reason somebody in this house is going to commit a firearms offense, they can go in without a warrant and seize everything you have.
Okay, let's talk about that, because it's not entirely accurate, and I don't want, again, I'm not throwing shade. This guy is one of the people just trying to deal with our gun laws, and he's not a lawyer, so I'm not throwing shade here. But there is a provision for search and seizure without warrant where an offense is committed. This seems to be part of what he's talking about here. And so where a peace officer believes on reasonable ground that a weapon, imitation firearm, prohibited device, any ammunition, prohibited ammunition, etc., was used in the commission of an offense, or that an offense is being committed, has been committed, etc., and that evidence is likely to be found on a person, in a vehicle, or in any place or premises other than a dwelling house. The peace officer can search where there's exigent circumstances that make it not practicable to obtain a warrant. But you'll note here, other than a dwelling house, we're talking about this guy's house, which is a dwelling house. Dwelling houses enjoy some of the highest protection under the charter. So this provision would not help the police here. They instead would have to go to other provisions, which include, this, which is application for warrant to search and seize. So where, pursuant to an application made by a peace officer with respect to any person, a justice is satisfied by information on oath that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the person possesses a weapon, prohibited device, ammunition, prohibited ammunition, etc., 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 and that it is not desirable in the interest of the safety of the person or of any other person for the person to possess the weapon or those other things. The justice may issue a warrant authorizing a peace officer to search the building, receptacle, or place and seize any such thing that is held by or in the possession of the person. So that is not desirable in the interests of safety of the person or any other person. At this point, these officers have nothing along those lines because they've heard that there are guns in the house. They will have run the guy's name and they will know that he is a licensed firearms owner because we have licensing here. They'll know that he's got some restricted firearms which are registered to him. Everything else here is a fishing trip. That's all they're doing, is they're fishing. There is a provision for search and seizure without warrant if it's circumstances that are exigent circumstances where it would not be practicable to obtain a warrant. There are also provisions that allow a firearms officer to inspect your storage, but that doesn't apply here because we don't actually have a firearms officer. And also, when you do have a firearms officer in those circumstances, you can schedule it. It's not just the officers show up at your door and need to search now. You can schedule a time that is convenient because it's an inspection, not a search, right? It's just to make sure that you've got sort of facilities. Okay, let's keep going. I just wanted to sort of clarify that because it's important that things be accurate. We're trying to learn here.
So I guess they didn't have credible enough evidence to believe that because they didn't say that they were just going to come in without a warrant.
They had nothing, is really what it is. They have no basis to believe anything.
They asked to look. We said no. We would
Good.
need a warrant for that. They were polite about it. I talked to them on the phone. They said, "Well, what? How many firearms do you have?" And I said,
None your business.
"That's not the point, basically."
Good.
And they said, "Well, where are they?" And I said, "They are secured." Okay. And firearms law in Canada, if you have unrestricted firearm, you can have them out, but they have to be inoperable. Meaning that if it is a bolt action, you can remove the bolt, lock the bolt somewhere where it's not easily accessible, and now it's not operable.
That is one method, although then the firearm can't be readily accessible to ammunition. Trigger locking is also acceptable, again, or it can be stored in a safe, secure cabinet. Check the regulations, because this is very important if you're a gun owner to understand those regulations. He's doing a pretty good job of explaining them, but there's some nuance. He's fine, though.
It's a lever action. You can put a cable lock or a trigger lock on it, so it's not operable and not easily accessible, right? So you can do all those things. Other firearms, like your restricted firearm, pistols, for instance, trigger lock inside of a case, inside of a safe. So they started asking, well, what kind of safe is it?
Now, if it's an actual safe, it doesn't need the trigger lock. Or a pistol can be stored in a secure container that is locked with a trigger lock on that. So, but inside of a safe, it can just be the handgun there.
Is it like an old safe, that's wood with a glass panel door that somebody could just break the glass and get into them? I said, no, it is not.
I'm guessing that isn't exactly how they asked it. I'm guessing they didn't say, can somebody just break it? If he'd answered this question incorrectly, then they would have had the evidence that they need to get a warrant. Talking to the police here is dangerous. This guy is a little savvier than most. Uh, but, if somebody says, oh, yeah, it's an old wood cabinet, now the police are kicking down your door and taking all your stuff. And you're going to have a very expensive legal bill.
It is a metal safe. It's bolted to the wall. I said all the firearms inside are secure. All the firearms, and they said, "Well, what about other items? I know that you have some. There's some that are registered." And I said, "Yeah."
And bolted to the wall is not, strictly speaking, necessary, although it is a good idea just to prevent theft.
Yes, I have pistols. And they said, "Well, what are those for? Are they for hunting?" I said, "No, you can't hunt with a pistol in Canada."
This is a trick question because if he answers this incorrectly, once again, they're going to start, they might start the process of revoking his firearms license. Why do you have pistols? Talk to the chief firearms officer. You are not a firearms officer. I have, I'm allowed to have them. I don't want to answer any questions.
I said, "Is for sports shooting." "Okay, so you don't use the pistols for hunting?" "No, I do not. You are not allowed." "Okay, and where are those again?" "Those are in the safe." So a couple of questions back and forth. A lot of it was repetition, just ensuring. And they said, "Well, what about other weapons that could be used for hunting? Like, do you have any bows or crossbows?" And I said,
And I mean, it's just none of your business. Like,
"Yeah, I have crossbows." "Well, are they accessible?" I said, "Well, depending on your definition, they're hanging from a hook in the ceiling in where I secure my firearms."
why are you answering this? I mean, I'm not, I'm not trying to judge him specifically, but this is not a question you have to ask. Do you have any crossbows? I don't want to talk about it. Well, where are they? I don't want to talk about it. I got nothing to say. The less you say, the better.
"Okay, could we by any chance look at those?"
No.
"No." And
Good.
and here's the thing about like crossbows or bows, you don't have to have a PAL, a possession acquisition license, to own one. You can go to your local hardware store, even if they sell them, like Canadian Tire we have here. They have some crossbows and bows, and you don't need to show anything other than a driver's license that you're over 16 in order to buy one.
And that's Canadian Tire policy. Um, it's just, you can buy them, they're just an item. The one restriction is that if you have a firearm prohibition, like you are banned by the courts from having firearms, that also covers crossbows. Not bows, crossbows.
So I don't know what they were trying to get out of that, but I mean, if you
I should clarify, if you have bail conditions, it might also ban you from having bows, but the firearm prohibition itself does cover crossbows.
if you kind of go off the side a little bit and say, well, what if my son had been talking about kitchen knives? What are they going to do? Come in and make sure that all the kitchen knives are secure? It's a little bit ridiculous, right? So
And apologies to all of my viewers in the UK, but yes, we do consider that ridiculous.
anyway, I said, nope, you're not looking at them. There's no reason to. They're
Good.
secured. Well, what kind of safe is it? Is it one with a combination lock, or is
None of your business, officer. Like, yeah.
it a key? I said, it's a key safe. Okay, and he doesn't have access to the key? No, he does not. I said, but hold on a second. My son and all of my family members, we know the fundamentals of safety.
You don't need to tell them this. They don't need to know.
He's been brought around firearms since before he was old enough to talk and old enough to walk. He knows that he's to treat them with respect. The only place that we shoot around here is at a range because you can't shoot within. We follow all the rules, all the laws, everything to a T.
And good for him for making sure that his kids are, aware of firearm safety and so forth, because that's important. You don't want. I think it's a better idea if children are aware of these things, so that they can know the rules, like don't touch it. Um, if they don't have any knowledge of it, then they might be curious, which is a bad thing.
So I said, he is not a danger just because he mentioned firearms. But that is where we're at, folks. Uh, Especially, and I get it, I understand it. You know, the Sandy Hook, all of those things. It's terrible, and it's a tragedy. But you can't make that connection just because somebody mentions firearm in a school doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is planning on doing a shooting.
Exactly. I mean, you gotta understand the context. There's Canada is a country with a lot of hunters, and I don't know this guy's background, but there's a very real possibility that the school here could have screwed up in a big way. Let's say this guy, let's say he's indigenous and he's talking about indigenous cultural practices. Well, I think I could sell that human rights complaint pretty easily. Um, School, do better. You are actually creating a liability hazard here, and you ought not to do that because that is dumb.
It's ridiculous. So, like I said, I'm kind of still in shock about it, and I just wanted to talk to you guys. Little PSA: you do have rights, okay? If they
Yep.
don't think, but it can happen to anybody.
Hmm.
Somebody mentions firearm, the next thing you know, you have police knocking on your door, and they want to take a look at them. You don't have to let them in. You don't have to let them look around unless they have a warrant or unless they think there is a crime going to be permitted. If they believe that a crime is going to be permitted, they are not going to knock on the door. They're probably going to bust in and take what you have.
Yeah, if they're asking for permission, the answer should probably be no. But again, the first thing you want to do in that circumstance is don't listen to me. Call a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not giving you specific legal advice to your specific situation because it hasn't happened yet. There are circumstances where you might need to take different approaches, and so it would be really important to get a lawyer on the phone, just to let you know what you should and should not do and what the risks are of these things. Um, Answering questions is almost always a bad idea. Letting the police look around is almost always a bad idea. If they are pushing through your door or whatever, fighting them is a terrible idea. Don't fight them. Don't, bar them or anything like that. But if they're asking, usually the answer is going to be no. And get your lawyer on the phone as quickly as you can.
And then I'm not even going to get on how to get that back because, I mean, it's close enough to home that thank God I haven't had to go through that yet, but it could happen and it could happen to you. So, again, still a little bit in shock about it. Just wanted to get it out there. Guys, take care. Talk to your kids if they do go to school. And I told my son afterwards, my God, do not mention firearms ever in the school. I don't care if it's with your best friend or whatever, and you're talking about hunting. Don't mention firearms.
This is good advice. Gun owners, talk to your kids because, it is risky if they, if they mention things and so forth. So this is good advice. I agree with him entirely here.
With the way that it's being regarded today, I mean, this is what's going to happen. And I
The other thing is that they might not have called the police. What they might have done instead is, the school gets worried because the kid's talking about guns, and then they want to remove the kid or suspend the kid or otherwise punish the kid for talking about guns, even though he's talking about using them in a responsible, lawful, legal manner under supervision, and all of that is, just fine.
never in a million years would have thought that I would have police knocking on my door and saying, I want to come check out your firearms. I never would have thought that.
You should be aware that this is a risk that this might happen the instant you get that firearms license. Um, it's happened to a number of people. There's different kinds of ways that they can try to do it. Again, talk to a lawyer if it's coming up, but yeah, you should be aware that this is something you need to think about when you're a gun owner is how do I deal with a police knock on my door?
But it happened, and it can happen to every single one of us.
Yep.
So, guys, if you have gone through this, I would love to hear the story and what happened. So, leave a comment. Ask questions if you want. I said I'm still a little bit in shock, so I don't really know what else to go over.
So go check out his channel, leave comments, subscribe. Um, he he could use the support here.
If you do have questions, fire them off in the comments. Make sure you click that like. I mean, maybe I can get a little bit of information out there and help you guys if this does happen to you. I mean, we're through it. We're on the other side, I think. But
I think is the wrinkle, because they could be now going and trying to get a warrant. I'm hopeful that a justice that they brought what they have to say we want a warrant would say, That's nice. You can want whatever you want, but you don't get one." But you never know, right? The justice might be rabidly anti-gun and might say, "Yes, I'll sign off on this." The justice may not understand the limits of what they're allowed to search for and when, and might sign off on it. So he might not be out. He might not be in the clear yet. This is a time to make sure that you are ready if the cops do kick in your door to have a look around.
they could come back with a warrant, right? Or they could say,
Yep,
well, somebody said that, he was going to kill somebody, so now they're going to take every firearm that I have in this house.
it's possible.
We're not there yet, and I hope it doesn't happen, obviously. But nothing can stop them, right? Don't forget to click that like, subscribe, guys. Hopefully the next video.
Go check his channel out. Subscribe if you can. So that's basically his story there, and he's not alone. He's not unique. Lots of people have seen this and have been, and have come to me to say what's going on. I don't think he behaved badly. I think he could have done better, but that's always the case. And this, again, isn't a criticism, because most of us are not lawyers, and even most lawyers don't really know the ins and outs of this. There's always the possibility. And if you're somebody like me, I have to consider the possibility that somebody might report me, not because of anything I did, but because they don't like my commentary. There's various people who are not fans, and they're allowed to not be fans. I just hope that they have enough moral fortitude to not call in anything fake. That would be, but I always need to consider that as a possibility. I need to consider the possibility that if I am going to the range and, maybe I'm going to shoot some clays and I take a shotgun out to my car, maybe, the neighbor across the street sees it and doesn't really think, hey, this is a guy with a firearms license, and instead thinks, hey, this guy's a danger. And then I have police coming to my door. Always, I think this is important. And for parents as well, I think you also need to talk to your kids about what they should and shouldn't say, both in terms of in places where they may be overheard, but also to police. This guy's wife did a solid in terms of calling him when he was dealing with, all of this, to allow him to address it a little bit. But even, if I was sort of going back and if I was sitting there coaching him, I would have said, hey, you don't need to tell them all the stuff you're telling them. Just, just end the conversation, right? Hey, can we come in and have a look around? No, you can't. Well, we've got some questions about your guns. Neat. I got no answers for you. Sorry. Like, everything here is legal. Everything here is lawful, but I'm not interested in answering questions about what I have or don't have, and I'm not interested in answering any questions. You guys appear to be on a fishing trip for something, because really those questions are intended to elicit an admission of criminal activity. And if he'd said the wrong thing in there, and you may not know what the wrong thing is, but if he'd said the wrong thing, he'd have been in handcuffs. Every gun he had would have been in the back of a police cruiser. All of those crossbows, all of his ammunition. His neighbors would have been seeing him dragged out in cuffs. That's a real awkward conversation at the dog park later. So better to call a lawyer, do what they say, and hopefully avoid all risk of that. So thank you guys for watching. Once again, I really ask that you go and, toss him some a subscription or a like. And I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level: Lembas for the Elf, CCFR, Canada's National Firearms Association, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. And at the $20 level, Lindsay Metcalf, Larry Kalniak, Kyle Fox, Drunkle of the Baileys, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, Vicky, and Dorky Dane. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the call immediately following. Thank you for watching. Hope this is armed with knowledge. See you next time.